Story 1. The Carnival Clown. I was 12 years old enough to know danger, but still young enough to attract trouble, near a dense forest preserve. Across the street was a sump, and beyond the woods a small, tucked-away community park. One Saturday night, a mini carnival came to life in that park, its lights flickering against the dark sky. My mom, never one to coddle, encouraged me to go check it out. She wasn't the overprotective type, so I grabbed a flashlight and made my way through the woods. Excitement and trepidation tangled in my chest. The carnival was vibrant but eerily quiet, with sparse crowds drifting between the glowing rides. The Ferris wheel creaked as it turned, casting long shadows, and the carousel's distorted music drifted on the cool night air. Among the attractions stood a large red and white striped circus tent. Curiosity led me inside, where 3 clowns performed under dim lights. One juggled, another pedaled a tiny tricycle, and the third danced erratically, his painted smile strangely lifeless. As I lingered near the entrance, the dancing clown stopped mid-step. His head snapped toward me, and his wide grin seemed to stretch impossibly farther. He raised a gloved finger, beckoning me forward with slow, deliberate gestures. My stomach churned. Something about him felt wrong. I backed away without a word and melted into the sparse crowd outside. Later, I ran into a friend at the carnival games and spent about half an hour with him. As the carnival wound down, we said our goodbyes, and I made my way back to the forest. The silence was suffocating as I neared the fence marking the park's boundary. Puss, the sound sliced through the quiet, sending icy tendrils of fear down my spine. I turned to see the dancing clown standing at the edge of the carnival lights. His painted face glowed unnaturally under the flickering bulbs, and his eyes were locked on me. "Wanna see something cool?" "Backstage. Stuff no one else gets to see," he said, his voice low and syrupy. "No," I blurted, retreating into the woods. He didn't follow, but just stood there, watching, his painted grin unflinching. I hurried through the forest, my flashlight trembling in my grip. Relief began to creep in as the road leading home came into view. Puss, the sound stopped me cold. Slowly, I turned, the beam of my flashlight slicing through the trees. The clown emerged from the shadows, his colorful costume muted and stained by the forest's darkness. "Leave me alone!" I screamed, my voice cracking. The clown stepped closer, his unblinking eyes locked onto mine. Desperation surged, and I hurled the flashlight at him before bolting toward home. My heart thundered in my chest as I heard his footsteps fade, swallowed by the forest. When I burst through the door, gasping for air, my mom looked up, alarmed. "What happened?" "Nothing." I ran the whole way back. I lied, desperate to keep my freedom. I never told her the truth, but even now, I can't shake the memory of that painted smile lurking in the shadows. Hold on. Subscribe now, hit that bell like, and share this video, or who knows, the next shadow lurking in the corner might just be for you. Story 2. The Bushes. My fear of clowns began young, at a county fair when I was 5. By the time I was 14, that fear had dulled to unease, a discomfort that flared up when I saw one. It was a cold November night, and the local fair had set up in an abandoned parking lot near my house. My parents were out of town, and my siblings were busy, so when my friend B suggested we check it out, I agreed. The fair was a patchwork of cheap rides and rigged games. As we wandered through the dimly lit lot, we noticed him, a clown, eerily silent. He didn't speak or laugh, just smiled, his white face gleaming under the string lights. His movements were slow, deliberate, like a mime performing for an invisible audience. "Creepy," B muttered as the clown drifted closer. We quickly left, laughing nervously. Walking back through the quiet neighborhood streets, we couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Footsteps echoed behind us, stopping whenever we turned around. The shadows seemed to shift and stretch, swallowing the weak glow of the streetlights. As we reached my driveway, B froze. "Look," he whispered, pointing to the bushes next door. A pale face peeked out, the painted grin unmistakable. The clown emerged, his body hunched, his movements unnatural. Slowly, he began walking toward us. "Get the door open," B hissed, panic rising. My shaking hands fumbled with the keys, the clown closing the gap with each step. Finally, the lock clicked, and we slammed the door shut behind us. From the upstairs window, we watched as he stood motionless in the driveway, staring up at us. His grin never faltered, his eyes gleaming in the moonlight. When he finally disappeared into the shadows, we didn't sleep. We stayed awake, hearts pounding, listening for any sign that he might return. Story 3, The Road Home. I live in a tiny town in South Carolina, surrounded by dense woods and endless quiet. One summer night, after a long shift at the local lumberyard, I began my usual mile-long walk home. The road was dark, illuminated only by the faint glow of the moon. Crickets and frogs sang a deafening chorus, masking the sound of my own footsteps. Halfway home, I heard it, a high-pitched cackle that didn't belong. I stopped, ears straining, but the night swallowed the sound. Uneasy, I quickened my pace, my heart thrumming in sync with the night's symphony. The next day, on my way to work, I spotted something peculiar by the roadside. A red clown nose, faded and smeared with dirt. I picked it up. It squeaked, unnerving in the stillness. That night, the road home felt heavier, the shadows darker. About halfway there, I spotted a figure ahead, shrouded in fog. At first, I thought it was a deer, but as I approached, the shape darted into the trees with unnatural speed. Then I heard footsteps behind me, deliberate and heavy. "Hey there!" A voice called, light and sing-song. I turned to see a clown, his filthy costume hanging loosely on his gaunt frame. His eyes gleamed black, and his grin stretched unnaturally wide. "You have something of mine," he said, his voice sharp and mocking. Panic set in. "I don't have anything of yours," I stammered, stepping back. "Well," he said, pulling a blade from behind his back, "if you don't have my nose, I'll just take yours." I ran, the sound of his bare feet slapping the pavement close behind. The blade dragged along the asphalt, the screech sending shivers down my spine. His giggles echoed, feeding my terror as I sprinted toward home. Just as his footsteps closed in, headlights appeared over the hill. A truck barreled down the road, and when I glanced back, the clown was gone. To this day, I don't know where he came from or where he went, but the memory of that painted grin still haunts me every time I walk alone. Comment below, clown, for more horror stories.